It's Justin McDonald here with another quote. And these are always random, but the information isn't random and the knowledge isn't random. In fact, it's timeless. Today is the 1st of April, 2023. However, it's not April Fool's. Because I'm not going to fool you. Everything here is obviously off the riff, and today's quote comes from Dan Kennedy. And what I thought was brilliant was what he said here. Not really sure what book it's from, but he said, being a truth teller is not the easiest road to prosperity to travel, but it has proved itself a very reliable and rewarding one. So if you think Dan Kennedy himself, maybe you're aware of who he is, maybe not, but if you were to look him up, not only and look into his work, but not only would you see how he's built his funnel, his success, there's also a lot of it was based on, most of it was based on truth. I mean, he is a storyteller and he has helped sell and advertise a lot of products. But the essence here is that he was being a truth teller. And it's just interesting that he has that quote because he himself has built a very successful formula, and he's traveled that road, and he's probably seen a lot of others travel different roads. Like in advertising, people aren't always honest, and like if you're like faking it too much or not being honest, like eventually people will expose that, and it really burns your credibility, and sometimes it totally um, destroys a business not being honest. And when the public finds out, they lose trust and faith in that company, and it's just a disaster. So, like, right from the get go, you want to be honest. Now, this quote, being a truth teller, it actually ties right into another book I'm reading. It had to do with satisfied customers tell 3 friends, angry customers tell 3,000 friends. It's a book by Peter Blackshaw, and it has to do with running a business in today's consumer-driven world. Except it's like more like running a business in yesterday's consumer-driven world, like a decade ago or so. But even though it's kind of a book that would be a little bit outdated in some aspects, in a lot of aspects actually, it's very current, very relevant to today. And I just happened to be reading um, something that kind of segues from Dan Kennedy's philosophy there in his quote. And I'm sure other successful people in all different niches have also shared that too, and being like an honest, authentic person in everything that they're doing is what has helped them probably the most as far as getting acceptance and almost like tribe-like behavior and people wanting to support them and wear their t-shirt or whatever it is. It's not something that you can force. It's something that like as far as getting people to just want to latch on to something like that, like like having that love. Like you can't just manufacture it. You can't just force it on people. Like um there's like an old saying too, like having to do with like the businessman that's all dressed up in like a suit and tie versus the guy that's in jeans, got a stain on his t-shirt. If you had them both knocking on doors to try to sell something, who do you think is going to drive the most amount of sales? Now, some people might say the guy in the business suit, right? Because he looks all professional and wearing nice clothes. But I think reality will tell you that most people are probably going to pick the guy with the stain on his t-shirt and the ripped up jeans. As far as like if they were going to choose between the two and buying something. And the reason why too is because there's just this humanity aspect. There's just like this um there's almost like this level of like trustworthiness that comes with somebody that has ripped up jeans and a stain on his t-shirt versus somebody else that's all suit and tie trying to sell you the exact same thing for the exact same price. A lot of people might be a little bit like, no thanks. Like before that person with the suit and tie even comes knocking on the door, they're not even going to answer it. But they might see this other guy out of breath, not very much shaven, hair not combed, stain on the t-shirt, just wearing jeans, unmatched socks, dirty shoes, and he's super, or she or whatever, super nice. Come on in, have a cup of coffee, and then they're even able to run their sales pitch. The old top hat, suit and tie thing, did it ever work? I don't know. Now, maybe in the right neighborhood, that might reverse itself. Like they might see that other person as being crazy and they might call the police, like the one that's not all dressed to the nines. And then the person that is dressed to the nines might have a little couple more yeses knocking on doors in a very nice neighborhood, ritzy neighborhood with mansions and stuff. Okay. But for the most part, I think the slob is gonna win. But not to get too far off topic here, I just thought there were some great examples in this book. Now, the author visited this coffee shop. I think with his wife and kids out in Pasadena, and it's Pete's Coffee. I'm not a fan of Pete's Coffee. I'm not going to say what kind of coffee I'm drinking because I'm not here to sponsor anybody, but I do like a good coffee. And I figured I'd pump out this Facebook Live before my coffee got too cold, or I thought like sometimes our brains just talk us out of stuff when you start thinking about it too much. So before that happened, I was like, I better do this. So Pete's Coffee goes there with his wife and kids and notice that they have like this board up that's got all these pictures like Polaroids that patrons would come in. I think it was their 40th anniversary, and they would have like a Polaroid camera like on a cable or something right near where you would get your coffee, and the participation was like through the roof, I guess, at the time. This must have been like 10, 12 years ago or something. And customers would doodle and pictures and art and messages and letters and all kinds of stuff would be posted on this board. Now, they weren't forced to do this. Nobody said to really do it. It was just kind of suggested, and it just ended up being a hit. And I just thought it was fascinating too because the author of this book went back to his friends. It's like, hey, you gotta go to Pete's Coffee over here. Check out the picture of you know, me, the wife, and the kids. And of course, like most of them wanted to go there just to see his, you know, stupid little picture up there. And it worked. And guess what? They were already coffee drinkers. They already buy coffee in bulk and all that stuff too. Um, so it was just kind of funny because like the way it drove sales, and you know that those people that were there too that checked out the author's picture, they probably did the same thing. They probably told their friends, and then their friends were already like, well, why don't I go over here and grab a cup of coffee or whatever, and let's just check that out. And it's just kind of like, it almost snowballs a little bit, but um, it's just kind of like a love center almost. It's not, and that's where a lot of businesses fail. And before I go into another example, I just want to check to see if this is still going live because this is my third one and I don't know what could happen, and I could be just talking to nothing right now. So, pardon me. Oh no, I'm still going live. Okay. All right. Here we are. Um, Very professional I am, huh? One day I'll tell you or show you how this is even being set up, and it's very rinky-dink. But the message that I want to share, I feel like is like very important and something that I believe in, and I just gotta get it out. So, it is very interesting, pardon me, that I just happened to be stumbling upon this part of the book while like Dan Kennedy, his quote was just kind of like in my mind around the same time. I think it was actually after. So there's actually times where this isn't good either, like where it could backfire, um, just because it might have to do with a certain kind of a disconnect. Oh, I'm going to have to be pardoned again because in the background, I know you can't hear it, but I can hear that I have a record on right now that's like skipping, or it's called an endless loop. I can't stop and pause this because if I do, so whoever is watching and listening to this right now, please pardon me for like 45 seconds or so because I can't stand that. Oh me, oh my, I'm so professional. I'm starting to feel like that slop that's knocking on people's doors right now with the mustard stain. Um, yeah, it's funny too because like going into records and stuff too. Why did I go and just choose a record that happened to be skipping, and I should have noted that before I did this Facebook live. And I guess it really wasn't that necessary to play a record before I did this, but I like music, and I'm just kind of one of those guys that always has like a record playing in the background at home. What can I say? And I do on the left of me too. I don't feel like turning the camera to show you, but I have a whole record shelf over here too. Um, so GM did something like this one time. I think they had like some tie-in with The Apprentice, and they got a campaign that got like a lot of media attention and blog attention. It was a very bold and brave experiment for sure. But GM invited like customers to kind of create their own ads for some like a Chevy Tahoe, but it like completely like missed that like love center that we were just talking about, as far as like, you know, how customers, patrons, they just really wanted to participate in this thing that was going on at Pete's Coffee, with this Polaroid picture thing. But GM was trying to do something kind of like that, but they totally missed it. Um, so like most of the ads that were created were by consumers who never actually purchased or driven their cars. You know, versus Pete's over here, it's actually customers that are drinking their coffee, loyal customers, whether they drink it at home or they're at the coffee shop. So like they really lack the genuine passion and enthusiasm that would send people running to the dealership, versus like what the author was saying when he went with his wife, and they got the Polaroid picture taken with the wife and kids, and he just he was telling his friends about it that were already coffee drinkers too, that probably already go there, but like, oh, next time you go there, check out my picture there, and they're like, oh, I can't wait or whatever. But I know it's silly and stupid, but I mean, these are the kinds of things that drive sales, like almost like in just a fun, almost effortless seeming way, because it's just inviting fun instead of just showing that you're just there to make money and take their money, and people do like to buy stuff. It's not like people don't want to spend the money. It's just like people want to buy, but they don't want to be sold. The people want to buy, but don't want to be sold on something. Like they don't want to feel like a sucker or they got like a raw deal. I mean, that's part of it, but you can't just like force people to want to start like a tribe around your business or you. Like you really have to tap into that fun center and that love center to get people to want to just, you know what I mean, follow you like that. It's not easy to do, and I'm not sure there's a formula to like get that, but there is definitely a process one can take to enhance that, the ability to be a more lovable and fun person and fun company. Even if it's something dull, there's different ways you can make it fun. So I don't want to go off at too many tangents here, but the author even offered a few things GM could have done differently, tying back into that, like the honesty and all that too. GM dealers could have gave all the buyers cards asking, but not requiring them to create their own ads after, I underlined some things too in books, but after the first week of driving the vehicle. It would have been a little more authentic, like a testimonial. The site could have also sent all the recent buyers emails and with links to information about the campaign, asking them to write about their great experiences. Again, it's like a testimonial. And I would have added to like maybe reward them and incentivize them to make the testimonial too, like gift cards, gift certificates, prizes, things like that. And also sending emails about the ad campaigns every time consumers provide online feedback, or instructed call agents to tell customers about the campaign when they called the company with positive feedback. I mean, that just kind of is the same thing I just said in a way, in my opinion. But I also like wrote in the book, I would have had a more narrow call to action too. And that's something that a lot of car companies miss too, like especially in Super Bowl ads and stuff like that. Like they spend all this money, millions of dollars, on an ad that doesn't even drive trackable sales. Can you think about that for a second? Millions and millions of dollars spent on an ad that everybody sees, right? Everybody sees it. They're talking about it. But talking about it is not enough. we have social media now. We don't necessarily have to rely on the water cooler at the office anymore. Like people are talking about it on social media. So like I think where a lot of ads go wrong, and especially car ads, is that they don't have a narrow call to action. They don't say, they might sometimes do a President's Day sale, for instance. Come, or whatever holiday, right? They make up a sale event for, come by such and such a day to get it for such and such a price. That's kind of a narrow CTA. But to go a step further, I mean, they could have even just had like whatever the company's domain, www.blahblahblah.com/whatever, and then that way at least they know that the people coming in saw that ad. But I can't remember ever. I don't watch a lot of Super Bowl ads, like the newer ones. I've been kind of tapped out of that, but I can't remember really ever seeing like like a good call to action from like a commercial like that. It would just be like very broad and generic. Might be even a good commercial. I might even remember it, but I never remember what to do at the end. It's just like, to me, it's like it's a waste of money. And all they literally needed to do was just probably spend less than a half hour creating some kind of a squeeze page or something, and just driving all the traffic that watched the ad to that. And then now they can trace and track, well, this advertisement brought in such and such business. But you can't even do that if you just run an ad and everybody sees it, and hey, maybe it helps. Maybe it does a little bit. But how do you even know? Something else in the air could have driven all those sales and you don't know. So like good direct marketing and good advertising and effective marketing and direct marketing, you can actually go back and track, and you want it too. Like just as much as you want it to work and make money, I think it's just as effective to be able to track something, because then you're able to see, like, you could do split testing and A/B split testing and just be like, oh, I could just change this little thing here, change this little thing there, and just keep running it, and just being able to see like how each little change is effectively making the sale, not making the sale, making more money. So we could talk more about that some other time, but just to kind of like conclude this too, I think it was somewhere in this book too, a company that actually did this, and it was very gutsy for him to do this actually, was that insurance company Progressive. Yeah, I can't find it in the book, but what they did, I think they still kind of do it too, is on their website they'll post something like it has to do with all the prices of other insurance companies, which is again very gutsy. And they are smart for doing that, because yeah, they might find that some of the other companies are offering better rates and prices, but look at what Progressive is offering. Honesty. That's what people want. Back when we had like a lot of different home phone and earlier adapting cell phone companies, they would sell you all kinds of different plans and stuff. And they would be a very attractive plan, introductory rates and stuff. And then you get to the fine print, you start getting the bill, and you would start getting charged for all these things like caller ID and voicemail, whatever. And people got very upset about that. And, just not having that transparency there, and just kind of like, sucking people in and then turning them into suckers after, like, it's not a good business idea at all. And those companies that did that are no longer with us, basically, for various reasons, of course, one of them being technology, but the other one just like, you can't do that to people. Progressive did something that, again, is very bold and brave. It's not something that maybe would work and help for everybody and anybody in this business, but it could help for yours. I mean, think about it. They have a website. It might have like 4 or 5 different competing companies' prices on there. Some might be a little higher, some might be a little lower, but again, they're being honest. Now, wouldn't you rather pay a few more bucks or whatever just because you're going to stick with a company that just seems to be a little more honest, that's willing to take that risk? Um, I don't know. I think that's a good idea. And for that, I mean, there's still a relevant brand, there's still a relevant company. They seem to do still pretty well for an insurance company, so I think that anybody could benefit from by being honest too. Again, sometimes it can backfire too if you just don't have a good game plan like GM did. But you know, look at what Pete's Coffee did. Look at what Progressive did. And I'm sure somewhere in the back of your mind you probably can think of another company that's did something like this too. And feel free to share it too, because um, it's I think those are good business tactics. I don't know if you agree too. And as we move forward in this world too, we want to live in an economy where there's more honesty, right? So that's all I have for you today. Thanks again for watching and listening to this one. I know it was a little bit longer, and we had a little bit of a interruption there, but thanks again. Bye.